Marlon Brando is one of the most iconic actors of this generation of all time, honestly. Billy Zane is it's just so great that you are playing him in this movie, Waltzing with Brando. So, talk to us about how you got started joining this movie.
Thank you, firstly. Well, it's interesting. The writer-director Bill Fishman was a friend and a collaborator. We worked together in the 90s on a film called Posse. And we were connected through a theater company called the Actors Gang for so many years. And I randomly was seen at a pool here in LA near the LA County Museum. There's this kind of Olympic pool at this place called Park La Brea that has memberships that you can take a kind of dip in if you want. And I was doing laps, and someone said, "Hey, you ought to consider Billy Zane for this." And I heard that. I was like, "That's weird." And he goes, "Hey, I got Bill Fishman on the phone." And I went, "Fishman? Well, how you doing?" I haven't spoken to him for 15 years. He said he's doing a Brando project. You should play Brando. I said, "Wow, that's funny." And I told him, I said, before he could tell me what it's about, I said I was always interested in the Tahitian period of Marlon, actually, because I had seen some footage of him and he looked like he was in a real happy place. And he said, "Funny you should say that. That's when this takes place." So I was like, "Well, that's more than a coincidence and bizarre." So we dug deep and decided to produce it together. And I brought on a financer and we worked on the script more. And then we just started casting, and huzzah, we were away. It was
Here we
interesting.
are. I mean, this film is made now. It's out for the public to see, and I'm so glad it kind of avoids the typical biopic of going through someone's entire life. This focuses on a very, very particular time in Marlon's life, like you said, in Tahiti. What was that like filming these great scenes, these exotic locations, these great, great scenes?
Well, yes, it's not a cradle to grave biopic. It's a 5 year period, and it focuses on the man's passion, which I think really gets to the heart of who he was and his joy. And it's, you know, the movie's a bit like a vacation in itself and meant to be almost provide that relief for audiences. We wanted to make a piece of agreeable cinema that tells a very familiar yet unfamiliar story. Things we assume it's kind of behind the scenes of the moments and the films and offerings of a man that we assume we knew, and then flips it upside down and tells a very charming and interesting and funny uh, curious story about, I guess, one of our first Hollywood activists, Walk and Walk for Civil Rights and Indigenous Rights. This was about him spearheading environmentalism in the most beautiful place on the planet, to your point, Tahiti, and why he wanted to preserve it. Not just Tahiti, but what he'd hatched there is applied the world over. Um, and the fact that he was foundational to a lot of the technologies and techniques applied today, because he foresaw, why him, I have no idea, uh, the threat of climate in the future. It's like it's not enough that he's the most famous actor in the world. The guy's got to have a crystal ball and be a wizard of connecting science with problems. It's like what a dude. So we had to tell this movie and invite you on vacation and give you a Mai Tai and go, "Hey, you know, let's learn something while kicking our feet up and looking at that sunset."
Really does feel like a vacation. I love how you put that. And how do you get into the shoes of Marlon Brando? What was your process? Are you playing your own version of Marlon? Are you studying his dialect, making sure you nail every aspect of his life? What was your process like for that?
Well, firstly, by taking your shoes off and kicking around the sand a little bit, and then um, the only way to play and approach this, I felt, was to ask how Marlon would, which was to not really give a damn, to really resist the inherent pressure of playing our greatest actor, and just approach it in very counterintuitive techniques, and that was to just into the joy and the fun and the improvisation, to improvise as him. Um, was the first really great liberation to balance these meticulous recreations we did of The Godfather and Last Tango and Johnny Carson interview and Dick Cavett interviews. Like we just painstakingly made frame by frame those moments be almost imperceptible as anything different than the original, which gave us liberty to completely make a departure and just loosen up and take you where you did never expected to go.
Those are scenes that fans are just going to eat up. They're going to love those recreations of those moments. And I mean, the hair and makeup of this, the costume design, the attention to detail for this to make sure you are Marlon Brando. What was the process like each morning on set to get you to be Marlon Brando?
Thank you. The makeup and hair department, who were shortlisted for an Oscar and just won an Emmy for Penguin, were phenomenal. They were just incredible, and it really helped me kind of disappear into the character. The Godfather makeup was perhaps the most complex because he was wearing appliances as well, and then the rest was kind of a nose bump and a beautiful wig, and that's majority of the work. And not to diminish it, but it was like once it became as much as like I had to morph as much as the latex, was malleable. And it was an incredible undertaking across all departments to kind of achieve this period look. The cinematography looks like 70s film, and we shot digitally, but to get that look was really meticulous. Our great camera department, great hair and makeup, wardrobe department, Charlie Altoona recreating all these fabulous looks, bell-bottom jeans and vibe that just, and those meticulous recreations of the Godfather tux, or some of the things we saw on TV during the interviews. Um, it was a group effort, and we all grabbed an oar and rowed hard towards the beach, and I think we landed.
Obviously, this is called Waltzing with Brando, but we have John Heder, who you co-star with. It is very two-part film. He's narrating this. It's such a great collaboration between the two of you. What was building that relationship with him like?
Thank you for asking. This film is nothing without that performance of his. I was always a fan of John's since Napoleon Dynamite and Blades of Glory, but as a dramatic actor who plays comedic scenes, he was fantastic. I think he tapped a kind of a selflessness and a vulnerability that was completely relatable as our guide on this story. Struggling with the idea of wanting to make Marlon feel comfortable by not making him feel like a movie star, but that blur between, being someone's employee and their fan and their friend uh, became complex. And the proximity of genius, where you kind of get over your skis and suddenly fancy yourself the Brando of architecture, that goes terribly wrong. It's a it lends itself to the inherent comedy and humanity of the story, and he does such a good job delivering it. He's the best waltzing partner you could ask for.
He really does. And I just have to say, one of my favorite pop culture moments from this year was seeing you and Leonardo DiCaprio on the red carpet at one battle after another, and you saying, "Hey, my movie's premiering here. Come watch Waltzing with Brando." What was that special moment like for you? Obviously, we're talking about the Titanic reunion between your characters who were rivals in that movie. What was that like for you?
Well, it was, we've been friends for years and have seen each other plenty. And that was, I guess, the first time we saw each other at that particular grid square. We had not been, I think, at the Chinese theater together um, since then. So I could see how that became a big clickbait kind of fun little moment for folks, understandably. But it was nice. The movie's wonderful, one battle after another, and he's so good in it. He only gets better as an actor. I love his work. And it was wonderful to go there and celebrate him. And yeah, a week later we had our premiere. The lovely Chinese theater provided, immeasurably and gave us a hero's welcome. So we're very grateful to Eli Samaha and the crew there.
Love to hear that. People have to see Waltzing with Brando, whether you see it on the big screen, whether you see it when it comes out, but make sure you cannot miss this movie this year. Billy, thank you so much.
You're so kind. Thank you, man.